Horizon Rex, and this is The Last Human, a glimpse into the far future by the channel Kurzgesagt nutshell. Yes, another Kurzgesagt video. Whenever there's a Kurzgesagt video, I try to react to as soon as possible because I love science, anything science related. And Kurzgesagt is such a big science channel. I mean, they cover everything, right? From anything, astronomy, astrophysics to basically everything, biology, right? And lots of time existential crisis type of philosophical topic, which this probably is, right? The Last Human, showing this kind of a, digging all, I guess, how we are gonna screw ourselves or something. That's, yeah. Okay, so let's watch this one. I've recorded quite a few Kurzgesagt video already. If you haven't seen them, check out the end card. There you'll find the playlist. Check out the link in the description. There you'll find the playlist with all my Kurzgesagt reactions. And yeah, let's watch it.
Insecure. Rapid climate change, political division, our greed and failings make it hard to look at our species with a lot of optimism, and so many people think our end is in sight. But humans have always thought they lived in the end times.
I guess the last video, was it last or before that? I don't know. One of the latest video he talked about the global warming, like how it probably not is all grim, right? We might be at the point that we probably could survive, right? So it wasn't much of like, oh, we are so screwed. It was a surprisingly more hopeful video about the global warming.
Generation assumes they're important enough to witness the apocalypse, and then life just goes on. This is a problem because it leads to short-term thinking and prevents us from creating the best world for ourselves and our descendants.
Yeah.
What makes this worse is that we may actually be living at an extremely critical moment in human history.
Yeah.
To understand why, let's look at the temporal window of humanity and ask, when will the last human be born? And how many people will there ever be?
That's how you can predict that, man? Way too many variables there.
These sorts of estimates come with a lot of uncertainties, so please take them with a gigantic grain of salt. To get a sense of how many people there will be, let's see how many people have already lived. Modern humans arose some 200,000 years ago. They were uniquely good at making tools, telling stories, thinking abstractly, planning and working together in large groups beyond their close family. Still, there were not that many of us. Surpluses of food were scarce, survival was hard, life expectancy was low. It took us 150,000 years to grow.
Don't want to pause too much, but at that thought and the image that they just show, like how people are using different type of, telling stories to kids. I remember that kind of scene from the game Metro, right? I mean, first two Metros, Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. I guess that those two games are so fucking good. I mean, no other game is even close to that. Especially the level of gravity that it captures with the, the population and the noise, right? And obviously, there's a post-apocalyptic world where way too many people are dead, right? And nobody knows about the past. Some people talking about how there was cities, towers, there's photos there of New York and shit, Moscow and different places like that. And people are just, kids and people are just talking, showing how with the, light and shadows, like this is rabbit, they're just telling them what different animals there are because every animal is dead. They are living inside the metro. Man, that is such a good, good thing that they capture. Like if some shit like that happened, that would be the case, right? Like all the things we know of right now, people will be like, kids especially of the time, like, things like this existed.
To a population of 2 million. Improvements were gradual and eventually led to the agricultural revolution, arguably the biggest change in our history. This was when our numbers really started growing. It took 10,000 more years to get to 300 million. But that increase was dwarfed by the Industrial Revolution. In 1800, there were 1 billion of us. The human population doubled in just 120 years, and then again in 50.
Whoa.
Today, we number around 8 billion. In total, over the last 200,000 years, about 117 billion humans were born and lived, and 109 billion also died. Which means that about 7% of all humans that ever lived are alive right now. As many as were born in the first 150.
Whoa! I mean, if you take into account like how many years humans been there, right? All this long time, and knowing 7% of them are alive right now, that's a big number, right? That just shows you how many of us. I mean, you would expect, like, after all this is like something like 1% or some 0 point something percent, but 7% of all of them are alive right now. This just shows you like how much explosion happened with all the population. 8 billion, damn.
50,000 years of human history. Every minute, 270 babies join the party. But there aren't just more people.
Most of them are
Never
India, I
before
guess.
have we been as healthy and well off or lived longer. With growing living standards, our birth rates collapsed. The UN estimates that around the year 2100, we will hit our population peak and there will be 125 million people born each year.
Hey, wait a minute, what? You think we'll reach 11 billion in 2100? That's what you think? Like, you think it's going to take 78 years? I mean, we are at 8 billion right now. And in just, 3 decades or so, we exploded that from 1 or 2 billion? And you think to get to 11 billion is going to take 80 years? I highly doubt it. I guess in next 2 decades, like 2040 or something, will be 11, 12 billion. If things doesn't slow down, it doesn't look like it's going to slow down, right? I mean, I guess, I don't know if there is any, I'm pretty sure there are probably going to be, but I don't know if there is any measures in India, basically. Basically, one of the biggest population. Is it the biggest? We overtook China or something? I don't even know that. But I don't know if there is anything in place that tells, I guess enforce something that people only give birth to 2 kids max or something. So I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, population is going to explode.
Population peak and there will be 125 million people born each year. It's pretty unlikely that birth rates will stay stable forever, but let's pretend to make our thought experiment simpler.
Yeah, and that problem will happen. The problems China just found out. China did the 1-kid policy or something, and they suddenly realized, like, wait a minute, there are way too many older people now than the young people, and they panic because that's a problem with the economy. So even if some country like India basically decides this 1-kid policy, they'll find the issue like China, and then they'll encourage people to give birth to multiple kids, and just none of them will matter because population will blow up. I don't know what's going to be solution for the population, man.
How many people there will be in the future depends on when our species will die out. And here, we find a lot of uncertainties. We are able to destroy ourselves through our own inventions, but we are also able to find solutions to avert catastrophic risk. We can change the direction of planet-killer asteroids, but we've also invented nuclear weapons. We discovered antibiotics, but also carry diseases across the globe in a matter of days. Our industrial system gives us an incredible standard of living, but also changed the atmosphere in the process. It's very hard to say if human ingenuity will prolong or shorten our species' lifespan.
One of the great
If
filters,
things
I
go
guess.
badly, our end could come suddenly. But if we manage to avoid that, we could conceivably stick around for a long time. So every day we don't destroy ourselves may mean life for an unfathomable number of humans.
Those different
How many
parts.
people are we
It's
talking
scary.
about?
Look at that.
It depends on how far our species is going to expand. Scenario 1. Humans
I
will
like how Kurzgesagt basically visualize and scare you like that. Look at all the different paths. Wait a minute, you can see it from this. I mean, look at all the fucking paths. Like, if we don't take the right path and just take one turn, that's it. We're gonna die. The skull. Oh god, this really puts things into perspective.
depends on how far our species is going to expand. Scenario 1. Humans will never leave Earth.
No.
If we
Oh, then
stay
we're
on our
fucked.
home planet, a good metric to look at is the extinction rate of animals that we get from the fossil record. The average lifespan of mammalian species is in the region of 1 million years, with some surviving up to 10 million years. Our close relative Homo erectus survived for about 1.9 million years. Let's be conservative and assume that humans will survive for 1 million years, which leaves
No other species had any close to intelligence, at least at the level where we can advance and understand things, basically understand science. And no other species was like that. So I don't think we can really use that statistics like how much a species live. But it could, like I said, the variables are too much, right? I mean, we could live ridiculously high because we're smart, or because we're smart and make too much shit, we're gonna live incredibly less because we'll blow ourselves up or something. One of the great filters, like we're gonna kill the planet and ourselves in the process.
there's 800,000 more years to dawdle away. Assuming a stable birth rate of 125 million people each year, this means there are roughly 100 trillion humans waiting to be born. 850 times greater than the number of people that have ever lived. This would make everybody alive today only 0.008% of all people that will ever live. Think about where this leaves you. Instead of putting you at the end of the chaotic mess that was our past, it would mean you live at the very beginning of something big. The start of the human story rather than the end. Doesn't this feel incredibly different?
What will look like
and
Warhammer
now,
or something.
consider that this may be an extremely pessimistic estimate. If we match the survival time of the most successful mammals, then our future numbers rise to 1.2 quadrillion people that have yet to be born. And even this seems far from our potential.
You can't feed
As
those
the
people on
sun slowly
planet
gets
Earth.
hotter and brighter, Earth will remain habitable for about 500 million years, giving so many more potential people the chance to become actual people. And now, let's begin to think big. Scenario 2. Humans will leave Earth.
Most likely.
We went from humans worshipping the moon to humans walking on it, so who knows how much further we can go. If we don't die out within the next few hundred years, ideas that seem outlandish right now become serious considerations.
One thing I've thought of that the civilization on machines could be a real thing, like spacecraft that orbits some kind of a sun. We always assume that we are going to land on some planet, and that makes sense, but eventually we'll come across the thinking like, look, if we can create some kind of a habitable zone in a dead planet, why the fuck would we need a planet? Let's just create some kind of a space station that is gigantic enough to house a colony. Because if we go in some dead planet and we are still creating some kind of artificial way to grow things and just live, we can still do that in some kind of a metallic ship, right? So I guess that's the future. Like there's going to be entire spacecraft that are gigantic enough to house a big number of people, and they will just orbit around the sun. Why the fuck not? It's like that Citadel from Mass Effect, right? Something like that. Like why the fuck not?
If we believe that we have a chance of surviving for maybe millions of years, then we could expand onto the other planets or into our own artificial worlds.
What just said it?
Life needs three things: a surface, resources, and energy. Our sun provides energy for billions of years, and there is so much water and material floating in the asteroid and Kuiper belt that we could sustain many times our current population.
Seriously.
Instead of living on planets, we could decide to construct our own artificial worlds and habitats. With resources and energy so abundant, we could try out different types of society and ways of life. An interconnected civilization spanning the solar system would create the basis of existence for an absurd number of individuals, orders of magnitude more than if we stick to Earth, even if we only existed for a few million years. This future doesn't have to be grim and dark as science fiction likes to paint it. With quadrillions...
Sextillion. I mean, that's... I guess quintillion is the number. I don't know, it could be sextillion. That's the how many stars there probably are in the entire universe. Certain sextillion, right? If I remember correctly. That's a lot of humans. I mean, when you just go like, yeah, billion, trillion, quadrillion, you just don't really process. But going from billion to trillion is a big fucking thing. Trillion to quadrillion, like, holy shit. Quintillion and sextillion, you can't really process that.
Of people waiting to be born, we will have billions of doctors working on curing cancer, billions of problem solvers working on ending poverty, and billions of video game developers making life fun. More humans may actually mean more progress. Another upside of leaving Earth and spreading out is that it becomes much harder for us to become extinct, as you need a solar system-wide catastrophe to catch everybody. So aside from nearby supernovae or gamma-ray bursts, humanity would be relatively safe from extinction, maybe for billions of years. If we manage to survive...
I don't pause too much, but yeah, that's... I mean, right now we don't think about gamma-ray burst fucking us up because there's no... Basically, we know where gamma-ray burst can happen, and there is nothing close to us for a near future. But if we talk about hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years, there's probably going to be somewhat gamma-ray burst or a supernova that can fuck our whole solar system up, right? So eventually we will, if we are thinking about long term, right, Earth surviving is very unlikely, right? Because of all these scenarios. I mean, Earth is going to survive, but life on Earth surviving is very unlikely. So we will have to basically become, multi-planetary species or something.
For that long, slow evolution or genetic engineering might split us into multiple species, or we might intentionally keep ourselves the same as we are now. So to account for that, we'll just talk about people from now on, instead of humans. Okay, now let's think really big. Scenario 3, people leave the solar system.
Yep.
As enormous as the solar system is, it is just one star system among billions in the Milky Way. If future people can colonize, say, 100 billion stars and live there for 10 billion years, with each generating 100 million births per year, then we can expect something like 100 octillion lives to be lived in the future.
God damn.
This is a 1 with 29 zeros. 100,000 trillion. We can spin this up as much as we like. The Andromeda Galaxy will merge with the Milky Way, adding another trillion stars for us to settle. Red dwarfs stay active for up to a trillion years, and future civilizations might even find energy for their habitats around black holes. A sufficiently advanced civilization of our descendants might even try to reach other galaxy groups. While these numbers are mind-blowing, they may underestimate the number of unborn people by many orders of magnitude. If we divide the total energy available in a galaxy by the average energy needs of a single person, then we get a trillion potential lives. 1,000,000 trillion potential people. Conclusion. Hopefully what's become evident is that if we don't kill ourselves in the next few centuries or millennia...
Conclusion, this was all hopeful and we're gonna die in basically a few decades. So this is all just a thought experiment. But yeah.
To all humans that will ever exist will live in the future. Which brings us back to us in the present. We exist at a high point in human history, with incredible possibilities at our grasp. Technological, environmental, and societal. What we do matters for all the people who do not exist yet. So while it's not en vogue to think about humanity's long-term future with optimism, or to think about it at all, maybe this has given you a bit of perspective. If we screw up the present, so many people may never come to exist. Quadrillions.
Yeah, whenever something like this comes forward, all the conservatives basically just says like, I don't give a shit. I mean, they literally says that. Certain people in US Congress, right? Certain conservative, senators literally said that, like, I'm going to be dead by then. Like, what the fuck? Did you just point blank said that? Like, I don't care about the future because I'm going to be dead. Really?
Unborn humans are at our mercy. Even if we go with fairly conservative estimates, the unborn are by far the largest group of people and the most disenfranchised. Somebody who might be born in 1,000 or even 1,000,000 years deeply depends on us today for their existence. This is why it's important to think about the distant future and why our presence is so crucial, why it matters what we do today. The last human will be born. We don't know when. But if we change our perspective from us living at the end of the human story to us living at the very beginning, we can not only build a wonderful world for us and for them.
When we figure out how to live longer or forever, I guess the last human will be born. People will know this is the last fucking human because everybody just come together and will just agree that we are not going to procreate anymore. Because people are not dying, right? And if other solar systems are kind of full too, in a way, right? I mean, Fermi paradox basically tells us that populating entire galaxy and basically more than that. I mean, first of all, going to galaxy is going to be extremely hard. So if you just talk about our galaxy, populating that is not going to be that hard once you basically start the process. And if we just figure out how to live forever, I mean, like, at first it will start like, okay, how to live 100 years longer. So now people live 200 years. Before the 200 years finishes, somebody realized, oh, now we know how to live 400 years longer. And before anybody realizes, it's just like forever. You just add years. So people can just come to a conclusion like, okay, let's not give birth anymore because nobody's dying anymore. That could also happen.
But also for countless numbers of others. Huge announcement. We're launching Kurzgesagt in 6 more languages: Arabic, Brazilian Portuguese, French, Hindi, Japanese, and Korean, on top of our English, German, and Spanish channels, bringing new perspectives and a love for science.
Is that a more channel? I didn't know that. Hindi channel. I might have to check that out, like how good translation is. But okay. All right, people. That was the last human glimpse into the far future of all the topic. This topic is kind of like out there. I mean, you can't really predict any of this because there's so many variables. But I like the whole thought process behind it. But yeah, I mean, anything could happen, right? I mean, hopeful future is really hopeful and I guess overall great. More hopeful is that nobody dies ever. But yeah. Right, people. I'll see you next time.